Utah Mammoth fans, tusks up, and welcome into your Utah Mammoth Daily update. So, let's start with roster news because the team officially made its first big round of cuts this week. As of September 26th, the Mammoth are down to 41 players in camp. That's 22 forwards, 13 defensemen, and 6 goaltenders. A bunch of young guys and fringe players have been reassigned to Tucson in the AHL. Some names to look at are Julian Lutz and Mikko Matika, two guys that I thought had a shot of making the big club, but it turns out they need more seasoning down in Tucson. On the blue line, Artem Duda is another name that I thought had a chance, so he's down there. And then the two goalies are Dryden McKay and Dylan Wells. Not surprising there. So, they are all joining the Roadrunners. We saw several PTOs get released as well. The only name worth looking at there is Sammy Walker. That's the one that I shouted out recently as well. One interesting move, though, is Caleb Desnoyers isn't going pro just yet. He's headed back to juniors with the Moncton Wildcats. So that's something interesting. All of this trims the fat and gets the roster closer to where it needs to be for opening night. It's a sign the team is starting to zero in on the players who will really compete for jobs in the next couple of weeks. So what do the cuts tell us? Well, first, it's about development versus readiness. The guys sent to Tucson will get ice time they wouldn't get in the big leagues. So on the fourth line is what they would normally get in the NHL with the guys that were sent down, or, the bottom four of the defensemen. That's especially true for Duda and Lutz, two guys that I think have a real shot of making the NHL. Both talented, but not yet consistent enough to lock down NHL minutes. So that's something that I was wrong about. The goalie moves also slim things down to the true competition for backup, even though it's not really true competition to back up Veggie. It's between Vitek Vanacek and Jackson Stauber, and I think we all know it's going to be Vanacek. And then there's Desnoyers. Sending him back to juniors just shows the team would rather let him be a top-line guy in the QMJHL than a scratch or fourth liner in the pros, or even a second or third liner in the AHL. I think that's a smart move long term. Bottom line, the players left in camp are the ones the Mammoth believe can push for opening night minutes. The rest, they're not out of the picture, just developing where they belong. The cuts may look routine, but they actually underline what the coaching staff and front office value: NHL readiness, consistency, and fit. So let's talk season preview. The Athletic has given their prediction, their ceiling, their floor, and their actual point prediction for the Mammoth. So the Athletic calls Utah one of NHL's biggest hype trains, and that's true. But their projection is just 90 points, a step back from last year and not enough to guarantee playoffs. Why the caution? Well, because the trade for J.J. Peterka, while exciting, did cost the Mammoth a lot of depth, according to The Athletic. I don't think so. I don't see it. And the other moves over the offseason kind of offset that as well. Josh Doan and Michael Kesselring, that does hurt a little bit. Michael Kesselring was a middle-of-the-pack defenseman. Josh Doan, who knows what's going to happen there? He's still developing. But Peterka will definitely surpass what Josh Doan did last year. And then the signing of Nate Schmidt offsets anything that was lost with Michael Kesselring. Not to mention the development of Dmitry Simashev and Artem Duda will offset that as well. So I don't really agree with what the Athletic is saying there. So let's bring in the numbers that the Athletic cited. According to the depth chart, their depth chart model, Utah ranks 15th in offense, 18th in defense, and 19th overall in net rating. That's middle-of-the-pack stuff. Not bad, but not elite, according to those ratings. But what they're not taking into account is development and the graph that is basically going like this, as opposed to what they are kind of expecting, which is a plateau. So let's look at the splits. Clayton Keller, plus 11. Dylan Gunther, plus 8, and Logan Cooley, plus 7 are carrying the load. That's your big three, and they're the reason people believe Utah can punch above its weight. But the bottom six is kind of brutal. Brandon Tanev is minus 8. Kevin Stenlin is also minus 8. And Michael Carcone is basically minus 8. He's minus 7.9. That drags the whole team rating down. But again, development of Michael Carcone, he's going to get more ice time this year as well. And so there's development here that the Athletic is kind of hedging against. So the hype is real, but the data says this is a bubble team unless the Stars play like Stars every single night, and that's a razor-thin margin, but I believe guys like Keller, Sergachev, Gunther, Cooley, Peterka, even Barrett Hayton, Jack McBain, Sean Durzi, John Marino, they're all going to increase their play this year because everything is more routine for them, and it's not this weird first year they're playing in a basketball arena as opposed to a hockey arena. So I think that this year will be a lot better. So let's close with the strengths and weaknesses because this team has both in spades. The strength is obvious. It's the top end. It's the top six. Clayton Keller is coming off a career season, and even opposing coaches are calling him Olympic caliber. Gunther and Cooley, they're not rookies anymore. They've played basically 2 full seasons now, and they have plenty of room to grow. If Gunther becomes more consistent, and he's showing that he can in this preseason, he's looking like he could be a 40-goal scorer, and Logan Cooley continues to rise as that first-line center, then this team is a very dangerous team. On defense, Sergei is the anchor. He's got plus 8.3 net rating, but the supporting cast is shaky. John Marino and Sean Durzi need to stay healthy. They need to. This is going to be a playoff caliber team if they do stay healthy. And then there's the mystery of Maverick Lamoureux, Dmitry Simashev. Those guys, will they be ready to go for NHL minutes, or will they be sent down to the AHL as well in favor of veterans like Ian Cole and Olli Mata? In goal, Karel Vejmelka is steady. He's a rock, and he even carried the team late in the season. But if he has to start 24 games straight again, that's trouble. That's trouble for almost any goalie in today's NHL. Backup Vitek Vanacek was minus 4.7 last year, but the Mammoth are banking on him being closer to his New Jersey Devils version rather than what we saw with the Panthers. And so I think we'll get something in the middle between the Panthers and the Devils version of Vanacek. The weakness is depth. Obviously, beyond the top 6, the bottom half of this lineup is one of the worst in the league, ranked 21st among forwards. If Utah can't get production from its third or fourth lines, the pressure is going to be on Keller, Gunther, Cooley, Peterka to get things done, and it could be unsustainable. The good news there is Lawson Krause is looking for a bounce-back season, and I think Jack McBain, Barrett Hayton, and those guys as well will be a lot better. Not to mention the youth movement with Tidge Ginla. I think that there's a lot of potential there. Daniil Boot even could give a kick in the pants to the veterans to actually score some points rather than just soak up ice time. So the Athletics' best case is 102 points and a playoff run. The worst case is 77 points and missing the playoffs. I think they're going to be better than the 90 points that were predicted. Which way this goes will depend on 2 things. Do the Stars take another step forward? I think they do. And can the depth keep the floor from falling out? I believe that's possible as well. Not just because the veterans will be pushed harder than they were last season, but because the young guys are closer than ever to breaking through and into the NHL lineup. Either way, buckle up. The ride is about to get interesting and a lot of fun. Thank you for joining me, and I will see you all tomorrow.